Hey everyone, this is Jennifer Beamer, owner operator of Actually Dyed Art by Science, and this is Fiber Talk episode number 17, and today we're going to be talking about Targhee. I actually spun this wool during the Tour de Fleece 2 years ago, well, almost about 2 years ago, and I had some really interesting responses about using this. So I likened it to cormo in that it was very soft and very easy to spin, but it was also very fluffy and merino-like, but it doesn't quite have the same handle of merino. Now, according to the Fleece and Fiber source book that I have here, where it talks about Targhee's origin, one of the things that should immediately jump out is that it has rambouillet, which is also got ties to merino, and it has some long wool ties through the form of Lincoln. Now, this gives Targhee a very interesting combination of having long wool characteristics, but also that soft fineness that we associate with merino. I no longer know where this comes from in terms of who dyed this. I bought it probably back in about 2011 from my local yarn shop because at the time she was experimenting with having some spinning wool available. So I bought this because I had heard a lot about Targhee, but I had never spun it, and when I saw it I thought, well, I immediately have to have this. Flash forward, obviously, 9 years later I actually got around to spinning it, and I really enjoyed the experience. So I have my Instagram here where I actually say that it was a very smooth and easy spin and very much reminded me of spinning cormo. So as I've said in the beginning, there's a reason why it reminded me of cormo. So I didn't really have a plan when I spun this, and I think this wool really lends itself to being slightly thinner because it does poof up more. But because I've only spun it once, I don't know how nicely this would be as a thicker yarn. I imagine obviously that plumping factor will make this an extremely bouncy wool, but I also think about how this will look bulky while knitted. So what I mean by this is sometimes I feel like a yarn looks better when the wool and the knitting, or the wool and the weaving, kind of come together nicely. So sometimes I have spun like long wool, for example. If I am embarking on a project where I'm going to be weaving with it or something, I definitely prefer that long wool to be thinner. I also prefer it to be soft spun or low twist per inch, so that the scratchiness or like the hard qualities of those types of wools don't get foregrounded. So I think with Targhee, in my view, it works exceptionally well if you make it a slightly thinner yarn. But again, I haven't actually spun it thicker than, this is probably a fingering weight yarn. I have listed here, it was 568 yards for 93 grams. And that equates to about 610 yards per 100 grams. So I think that kind of classifies it sort of in the fingering, possibly lace weight yarn. Although I wouldn't use this as a lace weight yarn. You could, but it would be sort of a really thick, thick looking lace. So in terms of whether I would spin this as a combed top or as a bat, I know that it has a really long staple, so that has to do with its long wool origin. So in one of the photos here, you can see that the locks can be quite long. What do they actually say in the book? Let's see. The staple length listed in the book is about 3 to 5 inches, which is slightly longer than some merino that I've worked with in the past, and the cormo that I ended up buying as a fleece as well. So I think it is a slightly longer staple. Still, you can make carded bats with the fleece, obviously depending on your carder and the length of the locks of your fleece. But in terms of a worsted preparation, so a combed top would be a worsted preparation, I had no issues with getting loftiness into the yarn. And despite the fact that I always do a backward drawing motion when I spin, that usually smooths out the yarn, flattens it, and also ensures that there's not a lot of air put into there. But despite that, you have the wool characteristics coming through, and so it is a much livelier yarn than I might have spun if I was using maybe just corriedale. Corriedale is one of the breeds that has gone into developing the Targhee line, but from my recollection of spinning corriedale, it would not have bloomed quite this much. So I think this is a really nice versatile fleece to work with. And because it has a softness factor that's very similar to merino, you could probably use this in place of merino. So if you are making a project like a sweater, or if you're thinking about doing this for children's clothing, where they might actually get into serious business in the playground, you probably want something that's soft and warm for their skin, but also something a little bit maybe more durable. And I think you might be able to get that with Targhee. Let's talk about the one noticeable drawback of spinning Targhee, and it's that it doesn't have the same kind of shine or shimmer that merino can sometimes have. So on the surface, it doesn't have that nice silky feel that some merinos can have. It's in part due to the crimp structure and the amount of lanolin, sure, but the micron count matters quite a lot here too. So if I were to do a reflectance of Targhee and compared that to, say, my most prized blue ribbon merino, there would be a major difference in how the locks reflect light. So it's not a very shiny wool, but I think it's not a huge drawback. So if you like the feel of Targhee, if you like processing it from the lock or from the raw fleece, I would highly encourage you to go and select your fleece, or at least get samples sent to you of Targhee, because I think it's one of those wools that you would like to have in your arsenal for those types of next to skin garments or projects that maybe merino wouldn't be quite well suited for. So why not have some Targhee? Have you used Targhee? What was your experience? We would like to know. I certainly would. So please post in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Additionally, check out the description box below where I have links to the other social networks that I'm connected to, including my Patreon. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye!